Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to share a video about baby regrets. This video is going to consist basically with things that I regret that either I did or didn't do with Lucy once she was born. I guess this can kind of be something that I would probably want to do differently if we were to ever have another baby. Baby number 2 is such a hot topic. I don't know how many times I get asked whether or not Rudy and I are going to have another child, if we're going to expand our family, if we want more. And I know immediately after I had Lucy, I always said no. Lucy was it for me. I felt like she was a one and done. I got exactly what I wanted. I finally had a baby. I had a daughter that I always wished and prayed for, and she was beyond healthy. So I felt like I was beyond blessed and I shouldn't ask for anything else. However, as time has passed, I have started noticing myself longing for another baby, another pregnancy. Rudy always wanted another one, and I know we had talked about this quite a few times, and I always said that maybe around the time Lucy's going on three years old, we can open up that topic and go from there. I had a wonderful pregnancy with Lucy. It was ideal. I also had a really great labor and delivery with her. Everything was pretty much everything I could have asked for. I feel like, why wouldn't I want to have another baby? And I loved it all so much that I would love to experience everything one more time, because it just wasn't enough. And Lucy came early. I didn't get to experience the whole 9 months of pregnancy. She came a lot earlier. I would love to have another child if God allows it, whether it would be natural or whether we have to go through IVF again. Yes, I would definitely love another baby. Long intro, let me go ahead and jump into baby regrets. Things that I regret doing and not doing with Lucy once she was born, and I would probably like to change for baby number 2 whenever the time comes. I'm not pregnant. I have everything written down on my phone, so you guys will see me constantly looking down at my phone and referring to it. So the first thing I have written down was not watching the Taking Care of Babies newborn course before Lucy was born. Not sure if I've ever shared this. We did purchase and watched all the videos for the Taking Care of Babies newborn course. I always expressed to Rudy how much I wanted to take this class because it was going to be very beneficial. I had seen a lot of women on Instagram and on YouTube talking about this and about all the wonders it has done with their baby. I knew that babies need some sort of a routine at some point in their life, and Taking Care of Babies has a lot of recommendations on how to go from there. We purchased this class on a Saturday and tried watching it. Wasn't working out since the internet was messed up. It constantly kept buffering the videos, and I just said, let's watch it some other time. The next day, Sunday, my water broke and Lucy came on Monday. Clearly we did not have time to watch the video and take notes on the class. So it wasn't until Lucy was about 2 months old, or maybe a month and a half old to 2 months, that we were kind of struggling with like nap times. I don't remember. We were kind of struggling with something when it came down to sleep, and I had said we need to sit down, we need to make time and watch this damn newborn course. And we finally did, even though it took us a couple of days to do so. We finally did. I got so many tips and tricks on the whole newborn thing, and it helped wonders. So whenever we do have another baby, I would love to rewatch that whole course so that way I can refresh my memory. But I need to do that before the baby comes, not after, because if we did so, I feel like we would have been in a completely different route. Lucy was a really good baby, always was, and she also slept really well. Honestly, at this moment, I cannot remember what was it that we were struggling with, and I was kind of reaching my breaking point and decided we needed to finally watch the videos. And yeah, if we did that before she was born, it would have been extremely beneficial instead of having to do it afterwards. Another big thing I wish I did before Lucy was born was do more research when it came down to breastfeeding. I don't know why. Breastfeeding was something I never looked into. I basically researched everything else but breastfeeding, and we did struggle quite a lot in the beginning. If you guys watched my breastfeeding video, you guys would be aware of all of our challenges. we had faced, and I wasn't aware that when it came down to breastfeeding, it was a supply and demand type of thing. I wish that I had done more research. I wish that I didn't rely so much on the pumping part, and that I had her on the breast more instead of like, oh, I'll just do the bottle, it's easier because we have guests over. If we were to have another baby, I really want to try to exclusively breastfeed and try to give the baby the minimal bottles if possible. And I would most likely use the Haka to get extra milk that we could freeze. But I really would like to try just the breast if possible and not do so much pumping. I hated pumping, but then after a few months, I just felt like my supply was kind of wonky. And I don't know if it's just something that a first-time mom experiences, but I was just constantly paranoid, and I was just like, I gotta pump, I gotta pump. We even splurged and purchased the LV pump, which I loved and do not regret. That pump really came in handy and helped me build a freezer stash. And that's another thing too, I was just constantly worried about feeding the freezer and not the baby. So yeah, I would completely like to change what I did when it came down to breastfeeding Lucy with a future child. So that was kind of like a 2-in-1. Wishing that I did more research when it came down to breastfeeding, and also changing the way I was with the whole pumping and bottle. I would like to wait to offer the next baby a bottle. With Lucy, we did introduce a bottle at the hospital. She did have formula for a couple of days because she was borderline preemie and she weighed 5 pounds 10 ounces, and we did not want her to lose too much weight. And she also had jaundice, and since my milk supply didn't come in until about day 4 or 5, we really wanted to make sure she wasn't going to be dropping too much weight. So the bottle was introduced to her very early on. With the next baby, I would love to wait and just give the baby the colostrum, because that is all the baby needs in the beginning. Another thing that we did face with Lucy was the fact that she wasn't latching. She did have difficulty latching, so hopefully the next baby wouldn't, and it would just be a lot more smoother, and I believe it would be a much smoother journey with the next baby than it was with Lucy. Please. One thing I regret not doing enough with Lucy was skin to skin. At the hospital, we were really good with constantly doing skin to skin before feeding her. And I know that that was because I did have gestational diabetes when I was pregnant with her, and they said that by doing that, it could help her blood sugars go down or something like that. I don't really remember, but they were also checking her blood pretty often too to make sure that she didn't have type 2 diabetes. And luckily she didn't, but yeah, the skin to skin is very beneficial, and it just, you know, gives the bond with the mom and baby, and it helps with the milk supply coming in and all that. I just wish that I did a lot more skin to skin with Lucy, and they always say also skin to skin with dad and baby. Rudy, I don't think ever did skin to skin with her. In the hospital, every time I would suggest it, the nurses would always say like, no, 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 like mom, mom, mom. And I wish I was a little bit more verbal when it came down to that, because I feel like Rudy should have done that. That would have been the best thing for them to bond, especially since she was just born. But yeah, I would totally do things differently with the second baby. A lot more skin to skin, because they don't stay that tiny for that long, and it's just so comforting. Nothing compares to newborn snuggles. Once we were kind of getting Lucy into that eat, play, sleep routine, I started getting very strict when it came down to her naps. If her nap were to begin at 10, I remember it would be like 9:58, like we gotta get her ready for her nap time, like it's already time, it's time, it's time. I did not want it to go a minute over, and I know that sounds so ridiculous, but it is what it is. I was just very strict with everything, and if we have another baby, I would like to be a lot more relaxed and just go with the flow. If the baby's not showing any, you know, sleepy cues, then we can wait a couple more minutes. What's an extra 10 minutes? It's not going to hurt anyone. I want to try following a lot more cues than the time, and also keep in mind the wake windows. Depending on the age of your baby, wake windows always come into play. And I mean, at the end of the day, just follow their sleepy cues pretty much, because you don't want to put a baby down for a nap when the baby's not quite tired enough. I don't know if this was because of pandemic and Lucy was born in the middle of like chaos. We did not go out with Lucy too often once she was born. We rarely went out with her, and I rarely ever went out with her unless Rudy was with us. And I think because I got so used to not going out with her, this fear just grew more and more inside of me, till this day it's kind of hard for me to even go out with her. I am trying to make it more of a habit and a routine for her and I to go out more often, just the two of us. If you watch some of my vlogs, I have shared a few times that Lucy and I go to Crumble every Monday. That is our thing and it gets us out of the house. I also started doing a little bit of a quick Starbucks run just to get us out of the house. We'll just do a Starbucks drive-through. I get myself a drink. She gets herself a water with strawberries inside, and then we'll just enjoy that once we get home. But just baby steps. Something that's not too much pressure on myself. I still feel kind of nervous going into a store with just the two of us because she doesn't like being in the cart and I can't carry her, push a cart. It's just kind of chaos in my mind still, but baby steps. I'm really happy that we have been able to go out a few times a week, even if it is just to go pick up cookies. I have taken her to quite a few play dates and she'll play with some of my friends' kids and I will just, you know, have mom time with my friend, and it just gets us out of the house. It just gets us out to socialize more, have some fresh air, just something different, because staying cooped up inside of the house is hard, and especially having a toddler, she loves to be out. She doesn't like staying in the same place for too long, and it also kills time. Sometimes when we are home, I'm constantly looking at the time and we still have like 3 hours before she's supposed to be going down for her nap. So definitely getting out of the house, especially with this great weather that we're having now, has been very beneficial, and it's just baby steps for me to be able to get out of the house with just Lucy and myself. I honestly have no idea how I would be able to do it if we had a second child. Me going out with the two of them, that sounds kind of scary, but we'll cross that bridge once we get there. Another thing that I regret was leaving Lucy inside of, she was in a sleep sack with her hands still zipped inside. She was wearing this, I can't even remember the brand, but her arms weren't out, so she was still kind of confined in that sack. And I honestly feel like we left her in that for way too long. We should have started releasing one hand out at a time so she can slowly get adjusted to it. I just remember when she was starting to show signs of rolling from back to tummy. She was around 8 months old, and a lot of babies do that a lot sooner. So I feel like she was a little behind on that. And I think it's because we took too long to take her out of the sack or releasing her hands out of the sack. She still sleeps in one. She uses the Kite Baby ones and her arms are free. So I feel like we should have transitioned her to an armless one a lot sooner than when we did, because once we finally tried to release one hand at a time, she was just so excited. When we would put her down for her naps, she just couldn't stop playing with her hands, sucking on it, taking out her binky, throwing it. We had to come back in, give her the binky, because she didn't have that skill quite yet of putting that binky back in her mouth. So it was just kind of a nightmare, and it lasted a few weeks for sure. But with the next baby, I would definitely like to unswaddle that baby, or arms free, a lot sooner than we did with Lucy, because we did face some challenges. And then once she was adjusted to having her arms out, it was so much easier, because whenever her binky would fall out, she would just look for it and put it back in and go right back to sleep. We no longer had to come back in here, so it was so much better. I wish that we waited a little longer before we introduced Lucy to solids. I remember before we were even going to introduce her to food, I wasn't in any rush, and I kind of wanted to wait until she was about 7 months, because she wasn't sitting up on her own yet. She wasn't quite sturdy sitting up on her own at all. But out of nowhere, I was just super anxious, super excited to do so, and I honestly just wish that we had waited a little bit longer until she started showing signs that she was ready. I don't think she was showing many signs at the time. I know she was always very interested when we were eating, and she would stare at us, but you're not supposed to introduce solids until your baby is able to support themselves sitting up, and she was not, or she wasn't perfect at that time. I can't quite remember, but I do wish that we waited a little bit longer. For the next child, I would like to wait until I see that they are completely ready, and just no rush, because once we did start feeding her solids, I was all about doing baby-led weaning, and I just got this huge wave of anxiety every time it came down to feeding her food. I was just so scared she was gonna choke, or she couldn't do it, she couldn't chew it. Like, it was really scary for me, and literally every time it came down to mealtime for her, I was just freaking out. I was not looking forward to it at all. So I feel like if we had waited a little bit until I saw that she was a lot more ready, maybe I wouldn't have so much anxiety around that. Who knows? But next time I would like to wait a little longer if needed, and not just rush it because I was so excited to give her something new. The last thing that I regret not doing with Lucy was filming her birth. I always said I never wanted to have my birth filmed. The more and more I started watching YouTube and started watching like somebody's birth vlog or birth video, I fell in love with that after I had Lucy. I have a video that Rudy recorded, it's only a few seconds long, of when Lucy was born and they had put her on my chest, and I think she was kind of crying, and like I was just staring at her and I started crying. Like every time I watch that video I get so emotional, but it's such a precious video. Like I wish I had more. My birth was wonderful. The only part that sucked was the pushing part. I hated the pushing part. I didn't push for long, maybe about 40-45 minutes, but it felt like an eternity. When they call it labor, they are not joking. It is freaking labor, especially the pushing part. Today, I really regret not having all of that on video. Whether or not I would have shared it with anybody or anywhere, I just wish that I would have had it for me because it was such a special moment. And I just love thinking back and looking at those photos and few videos that we even have. It won't compare to the video if we were to have recorded the birth, and I regret it so much. I would love to record my labor and delivery with baby number 2 if we get that opportunity, but then sometimes I feel a little guilty if I were to do so for baby number 2 and not have done it with Lucy, but try to tell myself not to think of it that way. It's not fair, and it just is what it is. That's just something that I would like to change if we were to have another baby. Thank you guys so much for joining me in this video, and I really hope that you enjoyed it. I just feel that I need to put this out there. This does not mean that I am expecting baby number 2 or that we are even trying. That is not in the plans, at least for another year. I am on my IUD and that thing is not coming out anytime soon. So yeah, I really feel the need that I need to say that so that way friends don't misunderstand this. Don't forget to like and subscribe this video and let me know what you would like to see next. Until next time, bye.